And that is who we are going to talk about here, because Holland was considered an option as the number one pick, sort of prototypical size as a wing, but as happens to a lot of different players, or nearly every, not every, but a lot of players who have gone through the G League Ignite program, which we're not going to have to think about past this year, their stock falls. And that has happened here to Holland. You see many mock drafts have him down at like number 10, whereas he was very clearly, I thought, in the discussion to be a top 3 player. I'll just, before we get into your actual initial thoughts on Holland, I just want to talk about the G League stuff. And one thing I've found with the G League is that so many players have come out of the Ignite system with really poor 3-point shooting numbers. And almost all of them have improved that 3-point percentage in their first year, or in their move his second year, third year in the NBA. It's nearly always improved. But so many guys come out with, Kuminga or Dyson Daniels or Scoot shooting whatever he shot from 3 last season. And it might only be 2 or 3%. Not saying they turn into great shooters, but it just sort of pushes up a little bit. My hypothesis for that was they go from a high school environment into a full NBA level situation, the full NBA 3-point line, not the hybrid in between college line, where it's not quite, it's not quite looking at the same stuff. It's a different sort of system, but you've just pushed way ahead in that development scheme and against the players you're going up against, and that sets them back and it makes them look worse in comparison to some of these other players. But then maybe it kicks along a little bit later. Have you seen that? Obviously, you've seen the players fall through the G League prospect into the draft, but have you been able to figure out why that seems to be the case?
That's definitely my thought as well. Just the adjustment from high school directly into that NBA line, and then also adjusting for playing at that professional level, speed of the game and physicality, all those things, and just kind of trying to adjust to that level definitely doesn't bode well for shooting. I mean, even most of the guys who have come in to the Ignite program haven't shot it particularly well, as you kind of mentioned before. And I think that is a big reason why, and then just kind of making that adjustment, obviously 18, 19 years old as well.
Yeah, and you are going up against, obviously players who either play in the NBA, were drafted 2-3 years ago, or 26-year-old veterans who've been playing in Europe, whatever. There's a whole bunch of different things versus playing against the guys in college. Now, Holland is still not 19. He will turn 19 soon. He's 6'8" as a forward. The numbers that, for those of you who can see on the screen, it's per 40 pace adjusted. So we know there's G League and college play different paces, but 24 points, 8 rebounds, 2.8 steals, a block. Yeah, he didn't shoot well, but he didn't take many threes, but 28 usage, 32 minutes, 49% field goal percentage. I just think having, yes, the shooting can be a problem, but if I put that aside, understand that there is improvement that comes from these guys. A guy at this size, with that usage, with that scoring, with those defensive numbers, playing in that G League, I feel like maybe we're overthinking this a little bit. I don't know where you have him, but I've got him still pretty high, top 3 in my board, because again, if that actually hits and that shooting does improve the way that others have, I'm not really sure how many guys are better than that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like I feel like a lot of people have scrutinized his season a little bit more than he's necessarily deserved it. When you look at a guy that size on the wing, being able to get to the basket as regularly as he did at that level, being able to make plays defensively in the ways that he did, and just show off his motor and energy, even though it wasn't as at the same level as it was in the past, he still brought that very consistently. You match those two things, and then also the strides that he took and just his ability to handle the ball and make plays. Now, none of that was perfect at all. His decision making is going to need some real strides and improvement over this next few years of his career. But being what he was in high school settings as more of a forward, somebody who kind of did things secondarily and worked off of guys like an Anthony Black, who was his high school teammate, or others on AAU circuits, but to now being one of the primary ball handlers and distributors on an Ignite team and advantage creators that didn't, have anybody else, and he was kind of biting off a little bit more than he could chew. I liked what he did and what he showed in that context, and I think that he's definitely still somebody I would heavily consider in the top 5 more than kind of the top 10 or late lottery stock that he has now.
Yeah, nearly every mock draft that I tend to see has him going at like 10 or to the Jazz. That there seems to be the common thing, whereas me, I'm like, okay, like I would happily take him at 2. I would happily take him at 3 to a lot of these teams, because you said you're biting off more than you can chew, which I think is really interesting, because the way a lot of people had these concerns when this Ignite team was put together, it's like, why is there so many guys that are the same size, same position, need to do the same thing? Are they going to have to be forced into roles they're not comfortable with? Is that good for their development? Is it good for their development but bad for their draft prospects? And I don't know about whether it's good for their development at this point, but maybe it is bad for their draft prospects, because everyone was in this weird position. The team, obviously, they got smashed every game. The team was not constructed very well at all. I think all that is context around it. Now, we can look at his defensive numbers and good steal and good block numbers. Is that real? Like, was he a guy that was able to hold his own professionally, 18 on the wing against these G League players?
Yeah, I think that was one of his biggest, most standout things about this season. That was something that kind of expected coming into the year, but his adjustment to just being able to play passing lanes, be in good position, help side, and just has his natural instincts for getting to those certain spots on the floor and making a play or blowing up a dribble handoff, doing things of that nature. That's stuff that I think that he's going to be able to do at the next level. Now, obviously, in the midst of that, there was a lot of mistakes and young player things that you saw on a game-to-game basis, and just him trying to make that adjustment. And then obviously the competitiveness of the team kind of weighed on them as the season went on. But I think that's all stuff that he's going to be able to do. And then you match that with versatility and being able to guard a couple positions on the wing. And as he gets stronger, just being more effective there as well. And just having that defensive mentality, I think he's going to be somebody that can definitely make an impact on that end.
We've got more prospects to talk about, but today's episode is brought to you by the Game Time app. Game Time's actually now an authorized marketplace for NBA tickets. So if you're looking to get yourself across to a playoff game, well, you can get those tickets over at Game Time with killer last-minute deals and all-in pricing. You got the views from your seat function as well, plus their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. They've got the zone deals as well, so you don't have to even pick a specific seat. You can just say, I'll sit in a specific area, a zone, so to speak, and they will choose the seat and give you a savings on top of that as well. Plus, the last minute deals, time's ticking down, games on in your area, they'll send you a notification. Prices drop the closer you get to game time, hence the name. And then you can get in there at a cheaper price, go see what's going on in your local area. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.